Yeah, okay, so we're going to look at C Sharp, three simple returns, which means three simple ways to return a value from a method or a function. We're going to look at three simple ways to return values from a method, and one of these you might not have actually used before, but it's pretty good. So of course, the first way we're going to do is we're going to do a global variable. Now, global variables are something that are very good to use when you're working on the program, you're developing it because it's quick and it's easy, but you don't want this in your final program because it breaks modularity, and another programmer can use the same variable name and overwrite your variable. Now, if they do that, it'll become a phantom. So when they override it, you won't know where and how and why it's happening. So let's do a global, and we'll call it a string up here, and I'll call it animal. So we put it under the class, and you see that we have this variable here. This variable can be seen by any function inside of this class. And it can be seen by any method as well. So let's actually set it here. I'm going to call a function. Well, actually, we're calling a method. And the difference between a method and a function is that a method doesn't really return a value while a function does. So we're going to make it right here, and we're going to set it to private void, which means we're returning nothing. So nothing's going to come back through the actual method. So call it my test because that's what we called it up there. Okay. So here we go. Now we're calling my test, and we're calling here, and we're going to set animal, and we'll set it to cat. And we'll come up here and we'll put it into a variable from up here. So you'll see that even though this is a void method, we can actually see animal because it's a global variable. And like I said before, you don't want to use global variables in the final program, but they're really much quicker just for development because you don't have to manage the passing of variables. So let's do that. Let's see what happens here. Okay, so we're going to run this. Okay, and we're setting animal. We call it from here my test. We set animal to cat, and we trace through it. And when we get here, we can see that X has become cat. Okay, so now we've made our prototype. We're happy with it. We want to get rid of the global variables, any that we've made, and we want to now make the variables more local so that they go with the class, they go with the function, they go with the method. This allows you to pick it up and to move it somewhere else, like another program, without having global variables that somebody might overwrite. All right, so let's do that. So we get rid of this. We're going to get rid of the global variable, okay? And my test is going to become a string, which means it's going to become a function. So it was a method, now we're making it a function. This here will now point to that function. So let's do that, okay? And so we'll get rid of this, okay? And now we're going to say return cat. So we don't have the global variable anymore, and we're saying that we want to call my test, and my test is going to recall a string, return a string, and here's the string we're going to return. So let's run that. Okay, so you can see cat came back, we returned cat, cat went into here, okay, and then we caught it up here. And that's the second way, and that's really what you want to do as the program is becoming finalized. Okay, so you notice we return one variable, we return one string, but sometimes you want to return a second string. So you might have to do something like use a list or it gets more complicated, but let's say we want to keep this simple and we only want one more variable to return. So what we're going to use is we're going to use an out, okay? So we're going to call it out other, we'll call it other animal, okay? And then I'll come down here and we'll do the same thing, call it out animal. And we have to declare animal here as a string, actually other animal as a string. So this will actually allow us to return a second variable. Okay, so that should be good, that should be it. So also what we have to do inside the function, we have to declare its type. So this is a string. Okay, now that should actually be good. So we're going to return also out animal. Oh, the reason why this is red here is because we need to return this. So we need to actually give it a value. So we'll call this dog. Okay. Now you'll see that everything's good. So we've made another string. We call my test. Okay. We're going to return cat through my test because we're returning it through the method. But we want to return a second value. So we use out. I'm going to call this out string animal. Now technically we should call this, we should keep the names pretty much similar or the same. So we'll call this other animal. Now there is a thing here where sometimes you can change the variable, whether it's a reference or a value. But so what I like to do is I like to specify that this is in. So this is in other animal. Okay, it's coming in. And then here is where we set it to dog. Okay, so other animal is our string. We call this and we say return to us other animal. We come here, we set it to a string. We return cat here, but in other animal, we're going to set to dog, which we're going to send back out. So let's take a look at that. And I'll just call this Y just to make it quick. And then we'll see what it comes back as. So we'll call it other animal. Okay. And we'll give this a run. Now when we look at this, X came back as cat. Okay. We came back as cat because we returned cat through here. Y came back as dog because we returned it through here. Okay. Now, that's a quick and easy way to return a second variable, but if you use a lot more variables, then you should do something like a list or a collection. You should do something more sophisticated because otherwise this list here is going to grow and it's going to get too big. So, but if you have one or two variables and you're in a hurry, it's a good thing to do. So that's it. Those are the three simple ways to return variables from a method or a function. Okay, so thanks a lot. I hope that helped you a little bit. Of course, you can visit think.com. Thanks.